11. If you really listen closely to the stories of people whose names echo across continents, you will often find a quiet voice behind them, a voice that rarely speaks loudly, rarely seeks attention, and rarely claims credit. Sometimes it is a voice shaped by struggle, other times by ferocious love, but always by a clarity of purpose, to remind someone they love that their potential is far bigger than the world expects. And when that voice finally breaks its silence, when it finally decides to speak plainly about what it has seen, what it has known, and what it believes every person deserves to hear, its words do more than explain the past, they ignite something in the present. They push you forward. That is exactly the kind of message Elon Musk's mother would deliver to anyone ready to rise, anyone who has forgotten their strength, anyone standing at the edge of a dream wondering whether one more step is worth it, because behind every person who dares to touch the impossible, there is someone who once watched them fall, watched them fail, watched them doubt, and still whispered, "Keep going." And the truth is, most people don't get to hear that whisper. Most people walk through life assuming that the giants of industry, the innovators, the visionaries, the ones who build rockets or reshape energy or imagine technologies that sound like science fiction, those people were simply born different. But if you listen to the story behind the story, the message becomes clearer. The difference is not in birth, but in belief. Not in privilege, but in persistence. Not in genius, but in grit. So imagine her voice, calm yet unshakably strong, the voice of a woman who saw her son be ridiculed, doubted, underestimated, and dismissed long before the world called him a pioneer. Imagine her looking out at people who are exhausted from life and telling them the truth most don't dare to say, that greatness is never about smooth paths, never about approval, and never about waiting for the world to understand you. It is about moving anyway. She would say that the world sees finished stories, not the hours of loneliness that came before them. It sees success, not sacrifice. It sees risks that paid off, not the nights spent wondering whether those risks would end everything. And she would tell you that if you are in your season of sacrifice, of doubt, of fear, then you are not failing. Your story is simply still being written. And too many people give up in the middle chapters because they assume pain means they are going the wrong way. But pain is often the proof that you are stretching beyond who you used to be. Pain is the tax you pay for growth. Pain is the signal that you are not stuck, you are changing. She would tell you that there were moments when her son could have stopped. Moments when criticism became louder than encouragement, moments when the logical choice would have been to quit, to step back into the comfort of the predictable. But comfort has never built anything worth admiring. Comfort has never launched rockets. Comfort has never changed transportation or energy or possibility itself. Comfort has never changed a single life, not truly. And she would warn you, with kindness but with absolute conviction, that if you choose comfort over courage, you are choosing a smaller version of yourself. She would remind you that people often see ambition as something extravagant, something reserved for a select few. But ambition is simply the belief that there is more inside you than the world can see. And every person, regardless of where they come from, carries that spark. Some guard it. Some ignore it. Some bury it. And some, just a few, let it burn until it becomes a force of nature. You can be that person, if you are willing to withstand the heat. She would tell you about watching her son come home bruised from bullying, about seeing him escape into books because the real world was too cruel, too small, too unimaginative for what was brewing inside him. And she would look you in the eyes and say that the world may not always understand you either. It may treat your dreams like threats, your intelligence like arrogance, your courage like recklessness. People fear what they cannot predict. They ridicule what they cannot comprehend. And sometimes, the people closest to you will be the last ones to believe in you, not because you are incapable, but because your dreams illuminate their own fears of never trying. She would say that the road you are on will not ask for your permission before becoming difficult. It will not pause out of respect when you are tired. It will not shorten itself because you are overwhelmed. But it will reward persistence with clarity. It will reward courage with opportunities that timid people never see. It will reward boldness with a kind of life that is not just lived, but felt deeply. And she would insist that you are capable of such boldness. Even if you have never given yourself permission to show it, she would remind you that people confuse failure with finality, forgetting that failure is often the first honest sign that you are trying to live, not just exist. She watched her son fail publicly, lose money, lose support, lose friends who thought he was pushing too hard, dreaming too big, risking too much. The world only celebrates after the victory, never during the war. So she would tell you not to expect applause right now. Applause comes when the journey is nearly over, but encouragement needs to come from within long before then. She would also speak of something deeper, something no entrepreneur or inventor can fully explain. Though many have tried, the discipline of hope. Not the naive kind that waits for good things, but the muscular kind that builds them. The kind of hope that wakes you up when fatigue clings to your bones. The kind of hope that lets you look at a future no one else believes in and decide to build it anyway. The kind of hope that is not soft or romantic, but fierce and unbreakable, born from a decision to refuse despair, and if she were to speak to you directly, she would say that you, too, possessed that hope. If you did not, you would not be searching for motivation right now. You would not be trying to rise. You would not feel the frustration of wanting more, because frustration is a sign of potential being blocked, not erased. She would tell you that wanting more does not make you greedy, it makes you alive. And too many people stop wanting more because they are afraid of being disappointed. But disappointment is temporary. Regret is permanent. She would also speak softly about loneliness, not to dramatize it, but to normalize it. Because the path of someone who truly seeks transformation is almost always lonely in the beginning. People who walk the conventional path find crowds. People who walk the visionary path often walk alone until others realize where that path leads. So if you feel isolated right now, she would assure you that you are not broken, you are building. And builders rarely have company at first. She would remind you that even her son, someone the world now sees as unstoppable, once sat alone with nothing but a dream and a willingness to begin. And beginning is always the hardest part. Beginning is admitting that your current life is too small for your future. Beginning is letting go of excuses. Beginning is choosing progress over perfection. Beginning is saying, I may not know how, but I know I must. She would encourage you to stop waiting for confidence. Confidence is a byproduct of action, not a prerequisite. People waste years waiting to feel ready when readiness only arrives after life forces you into the unknown. So she would tell you, take one step. Not 10. Not a leap. Just one. The second step only appears after the first. And if you wait until the entire path is visible, you will wait forever. She would remind you that discipline is love. Not punishment, not restriction, love. Discipline is the love you show yourself when motivation fades. Discipline is proof that your future matters to you. Discipline is how you tell the universe, I am serious about my dreams. And the universe responds to seriousness in a way it never responds to hesitation. She would speak of resilience, not the glamorous version people romanticize, but the real version that involves crying in secret, doubting your worth, feeling the sting of every setback, and getting up anyway. She would say that resilience is not about being unbreakable, it is about being willing to rebuild yourself every time life rearranges your plans. And she would assure you that rebuilding yourself is not weakness. It is wisdom. She would tell you to stop comparing your timeline to anyone else's. The world idolizes speed, fast success, fast money, fast recognition. But the things that truly last are built slowly, deliberately, with patience most people never practice. She would remind you that her son's achievements looked sudden only because the world did not notice the decades of quiet work beneath them. And your achievements, when they come, will look sudden too, because no one else sees the battles you fight in silence. She would tell you that your dreams are not accidents. They are assignments. They are invitations from your future self, asking you to grow into someone capable of living the life you desire. And she would urge you not to ignore those invitations. Dreams are persistent because they are rooted in truth. They haunt you because they are yours. She would talk about courage in a way that makes it feel possible. Courage, she would say, does not roar. It whispers. It whispers, try again. It whispers, what if it's worth it? It whispers, don't settle. And if you listen to those whispers long enough, they become a voice that guides you out of stagnation and into motion. Courage is built slowly, moment by moment, choice by choice. She would also remind you that people often misunderstand silence. Silence is not weakness. Silence is reflection. Silence is preparation. Silence is the space where growth gathers its strength. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is step back from the noise, from the expectations of others, and listen to what your life is truly asking of you. She would tell you stories about watching her son take risks that made others uncomfortable, risks that seemed irrational, risks that seemed destined to fail. But she would say that every great story begins with a risk others consider foolish. If your dreams do not make someone uncomfortable, they are not big enough. If your goals do not stretch you, they will not transform you. And transformation is the purpose of every challenge you face. She would remind you that time is moving whether you chase your dreams or not. You do not avoid risk by avoiding action, you simply trade one risk for another. The risk of failure becomes the risk of regret. The risk of discomfort becomes the risk of stagnation. The risk of judgment becomes the risk of invisibility. And she would tell you plainly that regret is heavier than all of those combined. She would want you to understand that your life is not defined by your circumstances, but by your decisions. Circumstances are temporary. Decisions are directional. And the decisions you make today will shape the person you become tomorrow. If you want courage, choose actions that require courage. If you want discipline, choose routines that build discipline. If you want success, choose behaviors that create success. And if you want change, choose to stop repeating old patterns. She would say something few people dare to admit: you do not need to believe in yourself completely to begin. You only need to believe in the possibility of becoming someone stronger. And with each small victory, belief grows. With each challenge conquered, strength increases. With each failure survived, resilience deepens. Belief is earned. She would remind you that your story is not over. Even if you feel behind. Even if you feel lost. Even if you feel like the world has already chosen the winners and you were not among them. Life is not a race. It is a test of endurance, curiosity, reinvention, and courage. And you are allowed to reinvent yourself as many times as necessary. There is no expiration date on transformation. She would tell you that small steps matter more than you think. Rome was not built in a day, but it was built every day. Your dreams are the same. One difficult decision at a time. One brave action at a time. One choice to keep going at a time. She would remind you that people who change the world always begin as people who refuse to be limited by it. And you are capable of that refusal. You are capable of more than the world expects. You are capable of more than your past suggests. You are capable of more than your fears allow. She would smile gently and say that greatness is not found in perfection, it is found in persistence. It is found in showing up on the days you want to quit. It is found in holding on to your vision even when the world doubts it. It is found in the willingness to move forward, no matter how slowly. She would tell you that the world does not need another person who plays small. It needs another person willing to rise. It needs another person willing to think differently, act boldly, sacrifice willingly, and love fiercely. It needs someone willing to set an example of what is possible. And she would say, with absolute conviction, that you can be that person. She would share that every challenge you have faced has strengthened you in ways you may not recognize yet. Pain has sharpened your awareness. Failure has shaped your resilience. Loneliness has deepened your self-understanding. Doubt has taught you how to find inner conviction. And fear has prepared you for courage. She would tell you that you are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too late. You are becoming. And becoming is chaotic, uncomfortable, beautiful, and necessary. She would ask you to stop apologizing for wanting more. Stop shrinking to fit into spaces that cannot contain your potential. Stop dulling your brightness to make others comfortable. Stop delaying your dreams until the timing is perfect. Perfect timing is a myth. The only real timing is now. She would tell you that the future is not something you wait for, it is something you build. And every decision you make is a brick in that construction. Every act of courage is a blueprint. Every moment of resilience is a foundation. And every dream you honor becomes a window through which your future self will one day look with gratitude. She would remind you that the world constantly tells you what is unrealistic, what is too ambitious, what is too risky. But the people who change the world never listen to that voice. They listen to the voice inside that says, try. Create. Build. Begin. She would say that you are stronger than you think, braver than you believe, and more capable than you have shown. The world will not hand you your purpose. You must claim it. And claiming it begins with believing that you are worthy of more. She would want you to know that your story matters. Not because it is perfect, but because it is real. Not because it is easy, but because it is honest. Not because it resembles anyone else's, but because it is uniquely yours. And your story has the power to inspire others in ways you cannot yet imagine. She would tell you that transformation does not begin with certainty, it begins with desire. And if you desire a better life, a stronger mindset, a more courageous spirit, then you are already on the path. She would encourage you to take responsibility for your dreams, not blame, not shame, but responsibility. Responsibility is empowering. Responsibility says, I can change this. Responsibility says, I can begin again. Responsibility says, I am not helpless, I am capable. And she would say, gently but firmly, that the world will not remember you for your fears. It will remember you for your actions. It will remember you for your persistence. It will remember you for the moments you chose to rise. She would look at you as if she already knows what you can become. And in a way, she does, because she has seen what belief, courage, and unwavering commitment can create. She has witnessed the power of someone who refuses to be limited by circumstances. And she would want you to understand that you have that same power. She would end her message with a truth simple enough to overlook but powerful enough to reshape your life. Nothing changes until you change. The world does not shift until you shift. Your future does not expand until you expand. And you are capable of expanding more than you realize. She would tell you that you are here for a reason. You are reading this for a reason. Something inside you is ready to rise. Something inside you is ready to begin again. Something inside you is ready to become the version of yourself you have always imagined, and she would say that the world is waiting for you to break your silence, just as she has broken hers. The world is waiting for your courage. The world is waiting for your vision. The world is waiting for your voice, and with a steady, unwavering certainty, she would tell you, go. Build. Rise. Become. Your future begins the moment you decide that you are worthy of it. And that moment is now, and when she finishes speaking, when her voice settles into the quiet air like a truth you've known all along but never allowed yourself to claim, there is a shift, not in the world, but inside you. A shift so subtle that no one else will notice it at first, but powerful enough to alter the direction of your entire life. It is the moment you realize that inspiration is not meant to comfort you, it is meant to awaken you. It is meant to remind you that you are not a spectator in your own story. You are the author. And authors do not wait for permission. You may feel a mixture of emotions, hope trying to bloom through the cracks of your doubt, fear fighting to keep its familiar grip, determination stirring like a sleeping giant. All of them matter. All of them serve a purpose. But only one of them will move you forward, the choice to act despite the others. People often talk about confidence as if it is the spark that begins everything, but confidence is nothing more than accumulated courage. Courage used repeatedly becomes confidence. But you must have the courage first. She would remind you that nothing in her son's journey was predetermined. No prophecy promised greatness. No guardian angel guaranteed success. He had only stubbornness, curiosity, and the willingness to look foolish in front of people who played life safely. And that willingness, to risk being misunderstood, to risk being wrong, to risk being judged, became the engine of everything he created. Most people want the glory without the risk, the recognition without the vulnerability, the rewards without the sacrifice. But you cannot harvest what you never plant. And planting requires faith in what you cannot yet see. She would look at your hesitation with compassion, not criticism. Hesitation is human. But remaining there is a choice. She would tell you that life gives you clues, moments when your heart beats faster at the thought of an idea, moments when your imagination runs ahead of your circumstances, moments when something inside you whispers, "This is meant for you." Those clues are not fantasies. They are invitations. And ignoring them is one of the greatest forms of self-betrayal. She would want you to understand something crucial. The world will not always reward you immediately. Sometimes the world tests your sincerity. It gives you setbacks to see whether your desire is genuine or just convenient. It gives you challenges to strengthen your discipline. It gives you critics to sharpen your clarity. It gives you obstacles so that, when you finally rise, you rise with a backbone forged by experience, not comfort. She would tell you that her son's life was not shaped by the moments he succeeded, but by the moments he refused to quit. She would say that success is rarely a straight line, it is a series of spirals, expansions and contractions, breakthroughs and breakdowns. And if you are experiencing a breakdown right now, she would tell you that it is not the end, it is preparation for your breakthrough. Storms do not come to destroy you. They come to clear out what no longer serves you. They come to test your roots. And you have roots deeper than you realize. She would remind you that people admire the mountaintop moments but forget that the climb is what makes the view meaningful. No one reaches the top by accident. No one finds themselves there by chance. The climb requires strength, focus, trust, and the refusal to turn back when the air becomes thin. She would tell you that if your journey feels steep right now, you are not failing, you are ascending. She would want you to understand the power of repetition. Not dramatic transformation, but consistent effort. The kind of effort no one sees. The kind of effort that happens early in the morning or late at night. The kind of effort that compounds quietly until one day it reveals itself as success. People underestimate how much can change in a year of focused discipline. People underestimate how much progress is possible when you stop starting over and instead persist. She would encourage you to be patient with your process but relentless in your actions. And she would look at the stories you tell yourself, the internal narratives that say you're not ready, not talented enough, not connected enough, not brave enough, and she would gently challenge them. She would say that the mind often lies to protect you from discomfort. It mistakes uncertainty for danger. It mistakes fear for intuition. But she would remind you that safety is not the same as fulfillment. And if your mind has been keeping you small, it is time to give your heart a chance to speak. She would tell you that your future self is watching you from a place of strength, silently cheering for you to take the next step. Your future self already knows what is possible. It has already lived the life you are afraid to pursue. It has already experienced the rewards of your courage. And it is calling you forward with a clarity your present self cannot fully see yet. Trust that voice. It is wiser than your fear. She would remind you that transformation begins the moment you take responsibility for where you are and where you want to go. Responsibility is not blame, it is power. It is the moment you reclaim authorship of your life. It is the moment you stop waiting for someone else to give you permission. It is the moment you realize that the only person capable of stopping you is you, and the only person capable of liberating you is also you. If she could, she would place her hand gently on your shoulder and say that you are not meant to live a half-lived life. You are not meant to settle for the familiar simply because the unknown feels intimidating. Everything extraordinary exists on the other side of uncertainty. Everything life-changing waits beyond the borders of your comfort. And you are capable of crossing that threshold. She would tell you that the people you admire were not born braver than you. They simply learned how to move through fear instead of waiting for it to disappear. Fear may never vanish, but its power weakens every time you move despite it. Courage grows each time you act in alignment with the life you want to create. She would remind you that you deserve to dream boldly. You deserve to chase what lights your soul on fire. You deserve to build a life that excites you. You deserve to become someone you are proud of. And none of that requires perfection, it requires intention. She would say that every step you take in the direction of your dreams is an act of rebellion against the version of you that once doubted. And this rebellion is sacred. It is a declaration that you are ready to rise. It is a declaration that you are done shrinking. It is a declaration that you are choosing possibility over fear, and she would end this part of her message the same way she began, with quiet conviction, with the certainty of someone who knows the long road to transformation. With the strength of someone who has witnessed the power of persistence, you can rise from this. You can grow through this. You can become more than you currently imagine. Your story is just beginning, and the next chapter is waiting for you to step into it with courage, with clarity, and with the unwavering belief that you were born to build something meaningful. Your moment is coming. Step toward it.